Chapter 14. Cole. "Do you think you could find your way back to the hospital?" Cara asked as they approached her car. Cole blinked at her. "Are you leaving me here?" "What? No." Cara shook her head, a small smile pulling at the corners of her lips. "I need to call Jordan, so I was offering to let you drive. Talking while driving is frowned upon." She wiggled her cell phone as if to emphasize her point. Despite the heavy situation around them, Cole couldn't help but smile back at the feisty woman. She was quickly earning a place in his heart with her confident words and straightforward attitude. That was certainly refreshing after the last relationship he had been in. Not that this was a relationship. "Yes, I can find my way back to the hospital." He needed to keep his rambling thoughts in check, or he might find himself distracted from his real duty, finding Sergeant Steele's killer. Great. She clicked the button to unlock the car and then tossed him the keys. Before he could say another word, she had her phone pressed to her ear. "Jordan, it's Cara. I need a favor." Cole tried not to be jealous as he listened to Cara's conversation with Jordan. He didn't know if they were together, and he certainly had no claim on her, but he found himself hoping they were just friends. "So, how long have you known Jordan?" Hoping his tone sounded nonchalant, he tossed the question at Cara as she placed her cell back in her pocket. He could feel her gaze turn to him, but he kept his eyes focused on the road. "A few years. I met him once briefly when I was active in the military. He always spoke so highly of Fire Beach that when I had to come up with a cover, I suggested something here." "And do you still like it here?" Cole hoped her answer would give him some sort of clue as to her relationship status. "I do. The people are amazing, and the beach is pretty nice too." "Do you go there often?" How could he phrase his words so that he could get his answer without her knowing what he was attempting? From the corner of his eye, he saw her shake her head. "Not as often as I'd like to. Work at the bed and breakfast keeps me busy, and it seems lately as if someone is always asking me to help them out. A few months ago, Jordan asked me to protect this woman, Tia, who had lost her memory, and just recently, Tia asked me to shelter a woman who was running from an abusive boyfriend. Actually, she was our hostess at the restaurant the other day. I shouldn't complain, though. They've all become great friends." Friends. That was certainly something Cole didn't have enough of. At least, not enough close ones. His lonely life was just one of many reasons he was considering a career change. "I just hope I haven't put them all in danger," Cara continued. He chanced a single glance at her. "We'll do everything we can. Did Jordan know the boy?" "No, but he was going to ask around the department. Hopefully somebody will recognize the names." She sighed as she turned her face away from him and out the passenger window. When they reached the hospital, Cole and Cara waited until all the women were out of their cars as well before leading them into the large building. Nick met them at the receptionist desk. It appeared Jordan had called ahead, warning him of incoming patients. "All of these women were exposed?" Nick's eyes roamed from one woman to the next. "We're not sure. They were all working in the garden where the other patient was spotted. I also brought his watering can. Is there a lab where I can run tests on it? That will help us determine if they were exposed as well." Nick blinked at her, his words coming out in a stammer. Yeah." Turning to the nurse at the desk, he began issuing orders to get the women taken care of. "I'll show you to the lab really quick, but then I have to get back. This creates a larger need for isolation than we've ever needed before." "Of course." Cara nodded, and she and Cole followed Nick down to the laboratory section of the hospital. After a quick introduction with the technician on duty, Nick excused himself to return to the women. Cara quickly began gathering items from around the lab. Though Cole was enjoying watching her work, he felt completely out of his element at the moment. "Can I do anything to help?" "Yeah, grab me some swabs," Cara said, without looking in his direction. He scanned the area, unsure of where they might be, and was saved when the technician pointed him in the right direction. Grabbing the swabs, he returned to Cara's side and watched as she set up the equipment she would need. When she was satisfied that she had everything organized, she grabbed the swabs from him and began wiping different parts of the can. Then the swabs were placed into another machine. Cole had no idea what any of them did, but he found the process fascinating. After a few more procedures he didn't understand, Cara slipped slides under a microscope. At least this part he understood. He hadn't enjoyed much of science in high school, but studying items under a microscope had been the one exception to that. He'd always looked forward to those days. In fact, when he was done with the assignment, he'd often grabbed random items from the floor or the room just to see what they looked like magnified. "Darn it." Cara's words were little more than a soft sigh before she pushed her chair back. "Can I see?" Cole hesitated to ask, not wanting to sound too eager, but curious to see for himself. "Sure." She scooted a little farther away so that he could lean over the microscope. He stepped closer, trying to ignore the heat he felt from the closeness of her body. In the microscope, he could see the spiky spheres that were signatures of most viruses. He blew out his breath in a frustrated huff. "Okay, so we know the can was contaminated." "Yeah, we just don't know what else was. Come on, we better go see if any of the women have tested positive." She stood up and glanced toward the lab technician. "Can you leave this here until we come back?" "Sure." The lab technician was too involved in her own work to have paid them much attention, and Cole doubted she would get around to moving Cara's stuff. They were almost to the entrance of the lab when suddenly Cara froze. Her whole body stiffened, and her mouth dropped open as her eyes widened. For a second, Cole feared she was having some sort of reaction. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" She turned, her fear-filled eyes on him. "I know who Patient Zero is."